Christine Wu is the Managing Executive for Customer Value Management at Absa Retail. So that's an interesting title, and we're going to be talking about the future trends, the financial future trends, because certainly they're developing in a very, very quick manner, and you're just seeing businesses adapting, and the banking industry is no different to any other industry. As they're adapting, we're continually hearing about the customer experience. There are unprecedented levels of growth. There are new entrants into the market. Traditional banking services still very relevant in the face of this growing digital option. Is this a question that you're asking today? Well, it's a great pleasure to welcome you, Christine. Firstly, how are you doing? How has the pandemic treated you and the bank? It must be quite interesting. I imagine most of the bank is working remotely still.
Well, thank you, Aki, for having me on the show. And I must say the last 18 months, 2 years, I think it really sort of takes the definition of agility to a whole new level. I think it's everything from mental agility, situational agility, collaboration agility. I think it really has an entirely different meaning to me compared to before the pandemic.
No, absolutely. I think we've discovered so many things about relationships that we have within the workspace, how we do business. I mean, it's been extraordinary for every single person and every single business. How is the state of banking in South Africa currently? Where do we find ourselves?
Well, I think it is definitely a very, very interesting time. As a matter of fact, I think banking is at its most competitive, in the last 20 years. I do think it is a very, very exciting time to be a banker, in order to deal with the shift in customer behavior into digital, to be dealing with the emergence of new players, not just from banking, but also from fintechs, from, MNOs, from retailers, and also just in terms of really making sure that banking can play a more important role in owning its role in society, in creating a more equitable, more welcoming society. I think, it is a very exciting time to be a banker.
Oh, there's no doubt about that. I mean, I was just looking at some of the statistics. I mean, there's still so much growth and potential in the banking industry, despite the fact that there are new entrants and, you're talking about fintech. But I didn't quite realize how many people are still unbanked, even in a country like South Africa. Now, have you noticed any of these changes that, in the consumer appetite for digital banking? I imagine that lockdown has changed a lot of attitudes towards digital banking.
So, Aki, I think that's a really great question. What we are seeing is that, actually a very polarized reaction. I think on the one hand, we're seeing a surge in adoption when it comes to digital. We had a record number of people signing onto digital channels. I think last year was, we had like 20% increase in our, digital app users. And we're also seeing a significant increase in e-commerce transactions, the usage of contactless cards. So all these indicate a shift towards digital. But at the same time, I think because of the turbulent environment that we are in, what we have also noticed is that a lot of our customers crave for that human assurance and human empathetic interaction. And that is also becoming very, very important. And that's why as a bank, we really need to think through how do we orchestrate our customer experience. So we provide the convenience and the 24/7 continuity, but at the same time, in moments that really matter, we can actually be there for our customer and actually provide that face-to-face interaction when they need it the most.
Many of those customers really crave an interaction with a human being. And I guess that's something that technology doesn't necessarily solve all the time. And maybe it's part of our human nature, but I get to that point as well. So I was thinking about what you just said, and it certainly relates to me. Now, this begs the question, is there a place for a traditional bank in an ever-evolving technological world, especially when you look at an extensive branch network where you have thousands of employees and additional costs? I mean, how do you see that playing out?
Well, Aki, I think banking has been around for the last 3,000 years, and it's always been on a continuous path of reinvention and evolution. And I think it's no different to what we are seeing now. I think a lot of times we like to make the comparison between a traditional bank and does it have a role, etc. I think the question is rather how would the traditional bank evolve to adapt to the future? Because if we take a step back and we look at the traditional banks, it's actually also been leading a lot of the innovation. So the fact that we try to think about traditional banks as uninnovative, being traditional and not technologically oriented, I think it's not a real reflection of what's happening out there. A lot of the innovation in terms of how we bank, actually all come from traditional banks, and it's just important that as we go forward, we need to continuously evolve the way we serve our customers. We need to continuously evolve the product offering and the customer experience to keep up with the society, but it doesn't mean that we won't have a place. It's actually just part of how we need to actually develop ourselves as the organization.
That's very interesting. I mean, customer experience is one thing that comes up over and over again. But just to what you said, you're 100% right. I've had the privilege of engaging with Absa as one of my clients to, see what you guys do in the background. And for your average customer, you don't see what the bank is actually doing in the background. With that in mind, what will the future of traditional financial services and payments holds? Once this technology gain happens and there's widespread adoption as we are seeing happening right now, what will happen then?
Well, I think it's always hard to tell what is going to happen in future. 2 years ago, we can't really predict that we would all be working from home, and we can't actually imagine the society that we're living in right now. But if I were to venture a few guesses, and also to look at some of the initiatives that we are busy implementing at Absa, I would say the following. First of all, I think we are going from just digitizing a traditional experience to creating a whole new set of digital experiences. And let me give you an example. We have been digitizing our Absa rewards program, putting them on app and creating a lot of features. But in the last year, what we have also launched is an entirely digitally native rewards program called Absa Advantage, which only exists on the app and is a real-time program that gives customers real-time rewards on incentivizing correct financial behaviors. So this is an example of how we move away from traditional experiences and digitizing that to a new category of products that we're going to be creating. And the second point to the earlier point around becoming more empathetic, there's also going to be a lot of work that goes into just making the customer journeys actually quite empathetic. So moving away from just menu-based, I click and then, you get very rigid answers, to really conversational UX, to really a more human, empathetic type of interactions. And then also, a big part of investment is then how do we enable our colleagues to advise our customers better, to actually give them better experience. So that would be a second avenue that we're looking at. And the third is about how we actually leverage data to actually give our customers more conveniences. How do we predict the important moments in their life? How do we actually make sure services are available without the customers even asking for it? So that's actually sort of a third battleground for us. And the fourth, also very importantly, is going to be around security and privacy. Really making sure that we can protect our customers from a lot of the digital fraud that's going out there. But ultimately, it's also about protecting the privacy and the digital identity of our customers in this sphere, because that is the foundation, of a lot of the trust that goes into a digital banking experience.
Wow, it's quite a multi-pronged approach that you have as Absa, and a very exciting journey that you're going on. I mean, touching on human behavior, security, which is like the one thing. I think trust is such an important aspect you raised. And of course, the big data, which is absolutely fascinating, the amount of insight that you can get on your customers and use that to better improve that experience. Now, as a traditional bank, has Absa capitalized on this digital landscape?
Well, I would say that Absa has actually been, leading on a number of, digital initiatives. So I think if we look at our banking app, it is actually one of the most user-friendly and stable platforms out there for customers to engage on. And like I said, we have also made tremendous investment into our colleagues' capabilities to be able to offer seamless experience to our customers. We actually currently in middle of a very big CRM implementation, to introduce Salesforce into our frontline, and that will actually make a massive difference to our ability to onboard customers, to actually provide them appropriate level of service, and also even with complaints resolution. So I think everything from from onboarding a customer to how to service them in the right moment. I think we're making tremendous strides in the digital sense.
Absolutely fascinating and exciting times for the banking industry. Christine Wu, who's the Managing Executive for Customer Value Management at Absa Retail. Thank you so much, Christine, for joining us on What's Next. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting to you and sharing those insights as to how Absa is looking at the future of banking and the next steps. And it's certainly a very, very exciting journey. Thank you so much for joining us, Christine.
Thank you for having me.